Okay, so let's look at factoring a quadratic. I'll give you this first one we'll try is 2y squared plus 17y plus 15. Okay, so remember that the sign in the back is going to tell me two things. First of all, because it's a plus, remember, so 15 came from last time's last and it's positive. So either they're both positive or they're both negative. And in this case, I know that they're both going to be positive because that middle term's positive. So I'll put my plus plus right there. And I have my 2y squared, my 17y, and my 15. So for right now, I'm not going to put any signs in, okay, because I think it makes it easier. I know to factor 2, it's 1 times 2. So I break down 2y squared, it's 1y times 2y. It doesn't matter which spot I put those. And now 15, I have 1 times 15, or I have 3 times 5. Now, we need to go back and think about, like I wanted you guys to think about what we're looking at, okay? So what ultimately needs to happen is I'm going to do these cross products right there. And I'm going to get something right here and something right here. So remember, this plus back here says that the signs are the same, but it also tells me that I'm going to be adding to make a 17. So whatever I put here and here, they have to add to make 17. So as I'm going through my choices, I'm thinking about that. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to get a 17 from here. So I can tell already that these are going to be my guys. Because if I put a 15 right here and a 1 right there, when I multiply cross, that gives me 15y, and here this gives me 2y, and whenever I add those together, it's going to give me that 17. So now I just have to put my signs in. I know this was a positive 17, and I know that the signs had to be the same. So that means that these two guys had to both be positive. So my factors are y plus 1 and 2y plus 15. So that's how you would work that one. Let's do one more so that you can see the difference. So for this one, my signs were the same. Let's look at this guy. I'm going to factor 5y squared minus 3y minus 14. So if you notice this time, my sign in the back is a negative. And so that tells me that my final signs, one's going to be a plus and one's going to be a minus. Because the only way to get this last is if I had a positive times a negative. Okay. It also tells me that when I get my outsides and my insides, they're going to need to subtract and make a 3. Don't worry about the signs in here. Okay. They're going to need to subtract to make a 3. So I know that my two signs have to be different. And I'm going to just write down all my players in here. I'm not worried about signs right now. And now I'll take my two binomials and I'll stack them. 5 is nice because it's 1 times 5. So when I break down 5y squared, I'm going to say 5y times 1y. Okay. So for 14, I have my factors are 1 times 14 or 2 times 7. Okay, so now whenever I multiply across right here, I know that these have to subtract to make that 3 in the middle. So whatever I put right there. So if I put a 14 right here, that's going to be way too big. Okay, if I put a 14 right there, I'm looking at a 70. That's too big. If I put the 14 right here, then this would give me 14 and this would give me 5, and those don't subtract to make a 3. So the 1 and the 14 aren't going to work. I know it's going to have to be the 2 and the 7. So the question is, where do they need to go? Well, they need to go in the spot so that whenever I get my insides and my outsides, they subtract to make a 3. So to make that happen, I know that 10 minus 7 is 3. So I'm going to need the 2 here and the 7 here. When I multiply, this is 10y. And when I multiply, this is 7y. And these will subtract to make that 3. So now we have to get our signs right. Remember, we said that we have to have 1 plus and 1 minus. So now I come back and I remember that my 3 has to be negative. So when I'm looking at my insides and my outsides, to make it negative, the big one would have to be negative. So my 7y, so this has to be positive, so I put a positive there. And my 10y has to be negative, so this has to be negative, so I put my negative here. So when I write my factors, I have 5y plus 7 times y minus 2. Okay, now like I said, we need to do a quick eyeball check. Do I have my insides and my outsides? So 1y times 5y is 5y squared. Negative 2 times positive 7 is negative 14. Okay, that's right. So let's make sure we make this middle. So I'm going to check my insides and my outsides, and I'm hoping that that makes a negative 3, and it does. So my factors are ready to go. 5y plus 7 times y minus 2.